Women have always been powerful. History just edited them badly. This is Female Badassery, a podcast about extraordinary, ordinary women.
We'd like to introduce you to a very special person that both Tracy and I know. The topic today is going to be activism over 80. So for the rest of the podcast, most of the dynamic badass women that we're going to be talking to are people that I've known. And we'll usually start with asking our guests to introduce themselves to Tracy, how we met. But Tracy and I both know Jo. We met together. We met as, I think, 5 years. We met during COVID because both Jo and I were concerned about
your health.
ballooning our health. We were concerned about our health. If you remember,
we were concerned about our health. We all were.
Yes. If you remember, COVID was a time of no one watching you and how much you consumed. So we both got to know Tracy as a health coach, and we really profited from her knowledge. We know Jo as a dynamic woman. We've gotten to know each other. We meet now every Saturday for the last 5 years. We have met. It's Saturday night for me in Germany. It's Saturday morning for Tracy. It's about noon, I think, for Jo. So you can tell how sexy my nightlife is. But we always have these really amazing conversations. And one of the most important things that I think I've learned from Jo is that there's still a lot you can do to be politically active. And I really like to share that with our listeners. And I think we will have listeners because I've just put out our little logo, and they've already had 2 women's groups reach out to me and say, we want the link. So there's interest out there. It's such a depressing time right now watching the news. So we're trying to bring in some light into the world. So maybe, Jo, you can tell us a little about yourself and how you are encouraging your world, your environment, your neighbors to get politically active, meeting them where they are.
Okay, I think it's important to say, first of all, I'm 83, and yes, I do dye my hair. So I'm known as the redhead. I live in a very large senior community in the Midwest. I live in a very red state. And when I moved to the senior community, one of the reasons I moved is because I was a widow and I wanted to be able to have social and be around people. And I didn't want to be needy and dependent on my children to make me happy. So the community that I moved to is large and doing typical for me, I kind of jumped in. I found a group of people. I was at a committee meeting one time, and somebody came up to me and said, you need to come to blah, blah, blah. I think it was a poetry group because I think you'll like the people. And to make a long story short, I ended up finding myself in a group of very like-minded people that were liberal. And there was a group that somebody else had started called Liberal Religious Gathering. Now, yeah, what a strange name, right? Catchy name. Well, actually, it was kind of offensive to some people. But in any case, going back, I had always been a bit of a political junkie, always, and paid attention and grew up in a family that was labor. But I do remember the horror when my mother voted for Eisenhower, that my dad was so upset as a good labor man. But I'd always been interested, but that was the end of it. I read the newspapers, and then later I follow what's going on in, the internet because I'm pretty computer literate. And then Donald Trump got elected, and just kind of following it and being interested in it just seemed like not enough. So during COVID, when the person who had started this group, the Friday group, religious gathering, went in hospice, and I remember I went over to visit her, and we had to meet outside, and there was plexiglass between us and another friend from the same group and I were there, and I promised her that I would keep the group going. We had some people that said, I'm so tired about talking about Trump all the time. So we ended up thinking everybody thought it'd be a great idea if we had a topic every week. Well, who's going to do it? Well, aren't you going to do it, Joe? So probably for 4 years now, I have been going through, I read a lot anyway. I do a lot of internet stuff. I am a political junkie, and I will find something that I think's interesting. I'll put the link and send out an email on Thursday of homework. And anybody that knows anything about liberals, you go in with a topic, but that doesn't mean that they'll stay on topic. The group has grown. We did a fun fair here at the village where I live, and we did a table because all of the resident-run groups could, put a table up once every other year to try to figure out how, have new people find out what's going on. I had some people come and really say foul things, and I had some people come and say, I didn't know there were any liberals that lived here. And so we ended up picking up here and there different odds and ends, and we now have a very vibrant group. The attendance runs anywhere from 15 to 30, and I pick topics, and sometimes they pick their own topic, and we have done things to get involved. And so some of the stuff that I will give them, like it might be a week on self-help, how to take care of yourself mentally, or it could be this is what's happening in Venezuela, or it could be education, and we just talk about education. One time I went out and got the copy of the test for citizenship and passed it out to everybody and made them take it
Wow.
to see how many miss it.
Couldn't. I don't think I could.
So,
Did you? Did you pass it, Joe?
Yeah, I did, but not perfect. Not perfect. So, and we have 2 people in the group who are immigrants and who are citizens and took the test. So we have one gal in the group who's a PhD historian who came to us from Vienna. She came here on a scholarship to get her PhD, I believe, and so stayed. So it's an interesting group of people, and I guess you could say I'm the glue that kind of holds it together.
I've got a couple questions that came up while you were talking. First of all, you mentioned that there were people who said terrible things to you, very critical individuals. How did you handle that? Because that's a lot of the reason why people don't get involved is we're afraid to be criticized. We're afraid to be attacked for who we are. So what was your response to them, and be your sort of internal feelings about it?
Well, my response was just to smile and go on, ignore them really, basically. I'm in a unique situation here in that part of the things that I'm involved in at the village where I live, which is a senior community, is I am now the president of their resident council. So I have to stay apolitical.
That's true. Yeah, well, sort of.
But so in the sense of walking around, going to breakfast with people, going to meetings, committee meetings and all that kind of thing, I never, ever talk about politics.
Okay.
I picked that up as well. Bullies. There are bullies still in
the senior communities.
In senior communities, yeah, really.
Probably worse because they lose their filter.
Well, actually,
cool.
the complex that I'm in, very early on when I was the district chair, somebody made an inappropriate joke about, Trump, positive about Trump and how critical we were. And I went up to him afterwards and said, we don't tell those kinds of political jokes at our meetings.
Good.
And so for the most part, I don't have to. There's an unwritten rule here.
Okay.
And it's sad. It really is. But I have gotten to the point where I don't think talking to someone about politics that I know is MAGA is going to get me anywhere except make me upset.
I think that's wise for our viewers to know that it's about discerning who is a safe audience to have those conversations, and then also having the wisdom to know how to handle it when you don't. So what I heard was some of the times you just smiled and ignored it. Other times you took them offline and said, listen, that's not how we do things. So it's having very clear boundaries about what kinds of conversations are okay, what kinds of communications are okay to encourage healthy discussion amongst people who have different views.
Yeah, and when new people move in, particularly into our complex, we have breakfast here once a week on Wednesdays. The women do, and the men do too. The men's is earlier. And somebody new coming in, I'll laugh and say, we don't talk politics or religion here. Kind of smilingly with the new person setting the boundaries.
That's smart. Yeah,
Well,
you
we're going to
integrate them
talk
in.
politics and religion, I think, on this
I talk
podcast.
politics and religion on Friday a lot, and I have certain friends that I will meet in the hallway that I know are like-minded, and I will talk a lot. But it's in energy, especially when you get older. You got a certain amount of energy, and to get super upset.
Your activism is behavioral, not verbal.
I don't go out and actively recruit new people to come to the Friday group. I let them find us. And then when they find us, we hug them and say, oh, and they'll come in. I didn't know there were any liberals here. Well, there's quite a few of us. Actually, the mailing list has about 60 people on it. And so they don't all come. We have a steady core of about 15. And if the topic is particularly interesting, it might be 20. And if I have a speaker or something really big's going on, I might have 30. But we're old, so.
I wanted to circle back to something that I learned from you that I thought was really interesting in one of our Saturday chats was the importance of what's happening in the school boards, how
Yes.
important that is to make sure to support the candidates for that level of politics. Could you talk about that a bit?
Well, 2 years ago, we're getting ready to go to the third school board cycle, which is we have new people elected to the school board every year, and there's 2, 2, and 3 seats. And so our group got involved first, it'll be 3 years ago this April. And we just one of the groups that meets here at the village that I don't run, though I help with, is called Seniors for Justice. And they once a month have speakers come in. And they had all along had all the school board candidates come to that group. So it would be everybody from whatever side. And of course, they're nonpartisan positions. And we would all go and we would write notes and try to, talk about who did you like? Who did you like? And then I remember one year, I think it was 4 years ago, they had the people that were there. And there was one person that said some stuff about how when we landed on the moon, that it proved that the Earth was only 6,000 years old, or something really weird related to one of these real radical religious right things. And I went, what? So then the next year you go in and you listen to them and you got, okay. And then the next week after they were here, our group would talk about who was there and who's supporting whom. And I remember that year, then there was a big uproar in our group, and the local big newspaper, which is a regional newspaper, had an article on the front page about a church, a mega church that lives in the town that we're in, the guy got up and the preacher preached from the pulpit that school boards are important and we need religious, God-fearing people on the school board. And we were all in an uproar. Oh, by the way, after I took charge, I took the word religious out of our title.
Yeah, good.
And you know what? The membership went up.
Not surprising. Who would want to be a member of that?
I don't want to talk too much about religion here because
But I want to
we
get back to
actually
the school board thing, because this is part of the deal.
got a few people from all different faiths who are going to be
Yeah.
meeting along
Which
this
is one of the-
that's
Badassery
not the
journey.
point, though. Yeah, exactly.
No, the
It's
point
about
is this
labeling it.
very fundamentalist
Right.
church was running people on the school board and public schools, and they would support things that would hurt public schools. They wanted to do book banning. They wanted to support vouchers. They wanted to get rid of certain teachers. They wanted to oppose any DEI kind of thing. And they were very vocal about it. And that particular year, it turned out that there were 2 positions, and the church backed 2 people, and there were 3 other candidates that were acceptable. But the 3 candidates that were acceptable for 2 positions meant the vote was split, and the 2 people from the religious group got on the school board and tried to do a bunch of really not good things. from my standpoint for a public school whose job is to educate and take care of kids. And so the next year, I found a gal had heard about our group and called and said, "Can I come talk? I'm being a manager for these two people running for the school board positions this year, only two." And so she came. I said, "Bring your people." They came. And then they said, "Well, we have rules here about politicians coming of any kind. And resident can invite them like I did, but they can't just come and set up shop and do a rally." And the same way there's rules, just strict rules about how you hand out literature. You can't go knocking on doors, but you can put a flyer in the door. So they came back to see us, and my group canvassed the entire village. We dropped literature off at over 1,000 places.
And let's just point out that these are all people who are
Seniors.
senior citizens. Yeah, all of them with their walkers and their canes going door to door, following the rules,
Following
but
the
still
rules,
getting the word out. What an
getting the word out.
empowering I remember the day after you did that, your face was lit up with energy and life, and you're like, we did it.
We did it. We did it. We did it. And, I sorted them out and put them in little plastic bags. And here you've got this section, you've got this section. And somebody said, "I'll do the whole building." And it was a smaller building. I said, and I took what was left over. And my brother, who can't even walk real well because of his COPD, said, "I'll do my loop of those houses." And I want you to know that the precinct votes here on the village. And we have dial-a-ride, so even if you don't drive and you can't walk, the bus will pick you up and take you to vote and bring you home. And it's free. So those candidates that we supported overwhelmingly won our district.
That, my friend, is badass.
It makes the
That is badass.
difference. Yeah. That is badass.
Because people don't know, it's not a Republican Democrat. So in the meeting that they had at the here, where they had all of the candidates, by now this church had gotten smarter and didn't put people up there to run that really sounded crazy. So it was really hard to feather out who really thinks it's okay that we give money to the private schools and really wants to ban books. And it was really hard to tell. So we brought those two teachers into us. And I remember afterwards, their campaign manager came up to me and she said, "We're getting ready to do the Chambers School Board debate." And that's the big standard here in this town. And they ask neutral questions and everybody's there. And they ask hard questions. And she said, "You guys ask the hardest damn questions. It's the best debate prep we could have had."
Good.
Because the people in this group are smart.
Yeah.
And they care and they're educated. And we have engineers and teachers and retired preachers and all kinds of people. And man, I mean, we peppered these poor two females right and left, but they felt like afterwards I talked to them. We even got invited to their party, their win party. And they said the best prep they could have had was actually the question and answers that we put them through. And so we're getting ready to gear up again for this year.
But you've been getting
And
a lot of good people to come in and visit and asking them important
Yes.
questions.
High profile people.
Yeah.
yeah, we had
Joe
our
makes things
representative.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, the representative from in DC, and he called the village and wanted to come. And again, the rules are you pay, you can come, but you pay for the place. Well, no, you need to get a resident to sponsor you. And they gave him my name. And so they call and they said they wanted to do a listening tour for seniors. Great. I got my little Friday group. Well, we can't come on Friday, but can you do Wednesday? Well, I'll have to find a room, but I go back. And then I get a call that Monday morning. We want to bring this big shot that used to run Social Security. And we want questions on Social Security. And I'm going, and we want as many people, we want a small group of seniors, as many people as you can get. And I had Monday to find a place, to rearrange everything. And I just got lucky, actually, in finding a place. And then I walk in and there's newspaper and TV coverage.
Joe makes
And I go,
things happen.
"Jeez, Joe." But anyway, it went really well.
It sure
And
did.
I filled up the room and I sent emails to my group and said, before I said it's just for us, and I'm sending out this big email blast, bring everybody, we got to fill the room. I got a bigger room. And
they asked
so
tough questions again?
we asked tough questions again. As a matter of fact, our group did a big long list that we gave him of stuff that we were concerned about.
I think that's the first time I felt sorry for a politician in a long time.
So, Joe, one thing that comes to my mind is it's almost a trope that senior citizens are challenged with the use of modern technologies.
Yeah.
How do you use technology in your activism?
Well, I'm one of the more computer literate people here. There are actually people that live here that do not have email. And a lot of people that do not have computers, they might get email on their phones. I know people that do not have smartphones. And, but there are other people that are. So, I like to use, like, for instance, during COVID, I thought we really missed our group meeting. And I thought, well, we can Zoom. Well, somebody's got to set it up and get Zoom. So I can figure this out. And I hacked at it and got it set up and did it. And then the village actually, when COVID kept strict, because we were locked up, literally, they locked all the apartment doors and wouldn't let people in except residents. And they sent around some of the people that normally do the activities kind of thing, would put on a mask and you could call and they would come to your house. And if you had an iPhone or an iPad, they would set up Zoom for you so that, and we did, happy hour meetings and all the committee stuff for several months was done via Zoom. But my group was a resident run small thing and I had to set it up by myself. And I
Wow.
did. And so I use email, basically is what I use the most. But I guess you could say it's skills, being able to go on the internet, being able to use Google. I actually use Chat GPT, thanks to Tracy, and have learned how to find stuff. Like I go in on my Friday group and say, okay, right now the thing we're pushing is phone calls and emails and letters to our senators.
Yeah.
And so I found out that, I sell them. If you don't know how to write it, you can just put down some ideas and drop it in Chat GPT and it'll give you something.
Yeah.
And and then I send them, like the other day, something that came up that we were all upset about. I think it was Greenland. And so I sent out an email with links, how to contact. Here's the phone number. Here is the link to get into our senators. And here's where you can find scripts of what to say. And oh, by the way, if you're anxious talking to somebody, call after hours.
Such a good idea for
And I think the thing
introverts.
that you do that is so grounded in theory is that one of the key components of persuasive communication, which is what activism is a persuasive communication, is that you're making it easy for people to act. Whether it's the people that you're helping to be more communicative or whatever it is that you want them to do, you make it easy for people and you meet them where they are technologically and physically and all the other things. Meet them where they are and then help them make it easy for them to act, to be active.
Right. And of course, we turned out the first No Kings. We had pretty good attendance, and you got to realize we got walkers and wheelchairs and canes and that kind of thing in our group. Though we do have quite a few that are healthy like me, but we turned out just a huge number. I would say of the physically able, 3/4 of them actually went to the latest No Kings rally. Yeah, and so ahead of time, we had yard signs for these school board people, and I had a few left over, and I found out if you took them off the metal and turned them inside out, they're a nice cheap white cardboard to make a sign. And if you put holes in the tops and put a string around, you can put them around your neck. So I took a bunch of them and some colored pins to the Friday meeting and said, if you don't know how to go get a sign, here, do this. And here's how, you just kind of make it easy for some of them. Now, some of them are very good and some of them aren't, but the idea of taking a map of where the place is, of carpooling, I'm driving, who wants a ride? And we had a and it's so invigorating.
Yeah.
It's so invigorating. The other thing that we talk a lot about is we talk a lot about newspapers. And one of the guys in there's daughter is up in Alaska, but she works for a big newspaper. She's a reporter. How important it is to support where do you get your news? Who do you follow on podcasts? And we share. Here's this person. Here's that person. And I will send links to a podcast in my homework to get people more. I never really thought of her. And some of my people are activists and they've got one daughter. We had a petition signing party at our meeting where we invited two people. Initiative petitions are a big deal in Missouri.
I don't know what I think happens in retirement homes, but it's not petition signing and, crafting a poster.
Yeah,
But it
you think
makes
of
me
it
feel
like,
so hopeful.
bingo and whatnot. It's exactly
Yeah.
right.
There's different groups that do different things, but that's our little bit. I have found out I think the red-blue split here is probably 55-45. I think the liberals are definitely.
That's impressive because you're in the South.
Yeah, it's a red state, but it's urban in the sense we're in a suburb of a big
Plus,
city.
also, those kinds of communities are fairly expensive. So,
Yeah, there are.
Joe, what is the biggest challenge that you face in activism over 80? What's the thing that's the hardest to cope with or deal with? The biggest challenge?
Well, I don't seem to be having any trouble, but I think what's sad for me is like some of the people that used to be very, very active in this group, health has deteriorated to the point now where they can't even come.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to them and we've actually had some deaths in the
Sure.
group. And that's hard. And I'll run to somebody and they'll say, I can't come anymore, but please keep sending your email.
Good. Okay.
Please keep sending it. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
And so, that keeps me pumped. People say, you've got all these other things you do. Why do you this is a lot of work and it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And I think the alternative of sticking your head in the sand and giving up is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And so if I can support them to give them ideas if you're going to, we've got two Republican senators. That doesn't mean they shouldn't hear from us. Pick something you're passionate about. If it's education, send them an email. It's easy to do the emails, doesn't cost anything on some of the education stuff, or pick your passion so that you feel your passion. And then sometimes I'll encourage them, come on, like last week I said, okay, how many people actually contacted somebody?
Calling them out. Accountability, people.
So, and sometimes I get
She's answering all of my questions without me having to ask them.
That's how you know it's a good interview.
Yeah.
So that helps, but it's very hard not to get discouraged.
Is there anything really small that you could recommend people who are getting to know you through this podcast? Is there any small experiment you'd recommend for people to do to feel like they're actually doing something, that they're some kind of control?
Well, I think actually the simplest, easiest, cheapest thing to do is the phone calls. And you can get, they say, oh, there's 5 calls and they give you a script. And I don't know that I like the script thing. You do need something written out so that you can get it all in. But I will tell people, oh, I can't do that. Call after 6.
Then you don't have to talk to anybody.
You don't have to talk to anybody.
That's the best advice for introverts.
Yeah.
And so quick and simple. And we've even done meetings where one of the people in the group went to the local Dems, did a big meeting just on how to effectively contact your congressman. And the next week she brought it back and I sent it out to the group later, what to say, how to do it, keep it short, keep it polite, all those kinds of things. But because you feel better after you do something.
Yeah.
The other thing I think people could do is pick a cause and support it. And find alternative sources of information. Unfortunately, some of our national TV have really copped out. And the attack against them when they want to do this big new thing, and you need government approval, and they don't dare be critical. And so you have to stay informed, do self-care. That sounds crazy. You have to do both, especially if you're a senior, because emotionally you just ruminate
Actually,
on
anyone,
it.
I think, these days.
So you have to practice self-care.
Yeah.
But the other kick to making yourself feel better is to do something.
Now, our audience is global. And I think
Right.
a lot of the things that you're saying, although they are United States centric, because that's where 2 out of the 3 of us live, apply to, other people in other countries, which is they may have different political systems, but it's taking one small action, making a call, having the intellectual curiosity. Like you said, stay curious and find other ways to get information than state-sponsored news.
Right. And then donate to them. If it's only who can't afford $5 a month to support somebody on Substack? There's some tremendous coverage out there.
And this is from a woman, by the way, who is on a fixed income. So if they can do it, we can do it.
Right. So, that's the way that I look at it. We have a gal that we've known through the monthly meetings that we have here, Seniors for Justice, who went to our state capital as a rep in Jeff City, and now she's term limited out and she's running for the state Senate. And it's a long shot for her to get that. And I've known her now through the 8 years that I've known her since I've been here. So I'm sending her $10 a month, monthly. So I pick and choose where I'm going to put my money, but I think I can do that. And so it makes me feel good to know Heather Cox Richardson. I mean, there's so many tremendously good information sources out there.
You can also go
on
abroad,
podcast.
look at BBC or
BBC.
Yes.
If you believe the Germans, there's Deutsche Welle. They do in English. They do
actually,
English.
my one friend from Austria speaks German. She,
Aaron
works as a
Parhas is
translator.
another good one.
So just go out there and find, and yet be smart enough that I like to, rather than watch TV, I like to use the internet sources and read a lot and the written things, and I will watch podcasts, but it's easier if you get triggered easily to be
just scroll
reading.
up. Yeah.
And you can but if you got the TV on, you got to go find the thing, mute them, or do you want to cut it off or whatever? And so I have my favorites, and I have cut, since the re-election of Trump, for self-preservation, I probably cut my TV viewing news in half.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, we're going to wrap up because I was trying to make this bite-sized. And now we come to the really important lightning round. Important questions.
Lightning round. Are you ready?
The first question, I actually know the answer. It is cats or dogs?
Oh, it's a cat.
I know it's a cat.
My Siamese, who's mouthy, you will hear him because you guys are used to hearing him all the time.
And
You
seeing
have to
him.
lock him up.
We'll see him Saturday.
You'll see him Saturday.
Something that you care less about every year.
Less about?
Every year.
And then the next question is something you care more about every year.
Okay. I can't think what I care less about.
I hate that I know you so well I can answer for you.
Tracy, what does Joe care less about?
I think that she would say she cares less about fitting into specific clothes and more about being healthy.
That's true. I've worked very, very hard on being healthy, but I actually do like clothes.
No, yes, but less.
Especially now that they fit better. I think I actually care less about what other people think about me.
Ooh, I like that.
I mean, I'm able to say, I know that that a specific person is upset that I don't spend as much time with her, but I really don't care. And I would have maybe in previous years tried to figure out a way for me to compromise who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna. I don't care.
That's a great answer.
It kind of feeds into the next question. What are you allowing yourself now that you didn't before? And you're allowing yourself to say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So throughout the podcast, I think we get the thing that Joe says yes to a lot. I mean,
But she's selective about it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the most important question, are you a Blanche, Dorothy, Rose, or Sophia?
Sophia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you are. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is that the last question? Yes.
That was the last question. Now I just have the list that we have to say thank you. And
Yeah.
it's been a delight.
Yes. You are truly a badass.
You are very badass. So, and you are
I
my
haven't been
Saturday
a
night
badass all
date.
my life. I haven't been.
Well, you
Uh,
are now for sure.
yeah.
And you're an inspiration to future badasses.
Yeah.
There's a lot
All
of
right.
stuff that happens in life that at some point just everything doesn't matter anymore. And it's about just doing what feels right.
That's
Just
right.
being true to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's such
Well, I'm
such
glad
good
you are because
wisdom.
I have learned a lot from you.
Same.
Definitely.
You're
Well,
not just a badass, you're our badass.
You're our
well, I'm sure
badass.
guys as well, we have our own little group and a place. I think that maybe is a word of advice to people that are listening that are feeling this horrible tension every day when you get up and turn on the news and with people and everything is find your places, find
Okay.
your people. They are out there. You don't have to try to convert somebody that
Right.
is never going to convert anyway
Yeah.
and ruin the ability to function in an environment. Like I live in a community where there's a lot of people that don't agree with me on politics. I, in a work situation years ago, had a friend say, strive for superficiality. It works really well in those
It's a good
situations.
corporate motto.
No, it does. So the flip side of that is when you can't quit your job, you can't change your family.
Yeah,
What do you
no, that's
do?
brilliant though. Really, when you think we should make t-shirts.
Yeah.
But the flip side of it is for
Is-
your sanity, you need to also find your people.
Yeah.
We do have a fourth member of our Saturday night group, and
Yes, we
she, I
do.
think, has written all the Joe-isms and has her
Yes.
entire office is
No, she's
sticky
got
notes.
post-it notes in the back of her little pearls of
So
wisdom.
find your place. And the other bit of good stuff that I have from my mother is pass it on.
Yeah.
You cannot always give it like the therapist that saved my life. I can never give back to him what he gave me, but the wisdoms that he gave me that I've managed to learn after trying over and over again, I can pass on.
I love that. It's a great place to end.
Thank you very much for being our guinea pig and very inspiring. And I want to call my congressperson.
Yes.
Yes.
And thank you for your congressman. Thank you for your time today. Thank you to our viewers, to those of whom are just listening. And we really encourage you to come back next time for Female Badassery.
Badass.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.